Toastmaster Rudy.
I want to take you guys to a place, and I'm going to need everybody to work with me to take you to this place to have an understanding of what it means to be a neighbor. Everyone has their viewpoint. And in order for us to get to this place, I'm going to need everyone to close their eyes, right? Close your eyes, and I'm going to take you to this place. I'm taking you to a place where you hear ice cream trucks passing by. You got a neighbor on the second floor named Mr. Art, who's always talking about politics and garlic breads and how you can put it in the freezer. You have dogs barking, kids playing basketball in the playground. It smells fresh, there's flowers. You know the name of your mailman, his name is Mr. Art. You got the Jamaican next door, Mr. Reggie. He cooks an amazing goat, curry goat, and a bunch of kids all around about his doorways while he hands them curry goats to eat with some festival, which is a fried dough. This is a beautiful neighborhood. You can smell the scent of barbecue. Everyone's outside riding their bikes. Babies are crying. Mothers are laughing in the park. Everyone knows every single person by name. You can open your eyes. A neighborhood. What does it mean to be a neighbor? Me and my woman recently looking for another house. I said, listen, I need to look for another house. She's like, oh, I need this and that. I said, what are you looking for in the house? She said, I want it to be this floor and this and that. I said, baby, you know me. I like those two-story houses. I don't compromise with not having a house on the beach, but I like 2 stories. That's my thing. So we were thinking about housing, talking to different realtors, and they're always saying, this is a great neighborhood, Plantation and Weston, and this part of Broward, it's beautiful. And I said, well, what makes it a good neighborhood? Is it the size of the bedroom? Is it the pool? I mean, what makes it a good neighborhood? Or is it the people? It's imperative for us to know our neighbors. Because from our reality, you can have a mindset that they're living with you. No, you're living with them. How do we become more neighborly? What actions can we take to get to know our neighbor? And why is it important for us to know our neighbors? I mean, just a quick question. How many of you guys can honestly say that you know majority of the people that live in your neighborhood? Okay? Now, being neighborly is very imperative for us to cure a lot of the ills within our society. Now, you can look at it from a micro and a macro perspective. Let's take this for consideration. You got a neighbor next door. Weird guy. Very weird. You don't know what's going on with this guy. He could be a threat to society. But you live in that neighborhood too. It's your neighbor. So for us as individuals, when we look at the conditions of neighborhoods, and we say, wow, my neighborhood is a bad neighborhood. Generally, bad neighborhood lack one important element: neighbors. And that's what we have a short word for it. It's called hood. And the thing about the hood is, they lack what is called a neighbor. There's no neighbor in the hood. It lacks that, so it only is known by the word hood. And people say things like, I'm not from the hood, because we associate something that lacks the neighbor as something negative. So how can we foster neighborly communities? Well, there's certain things we can do. For example, see the guy walking every single day from his house, back and forth, every morning at 7 a.m. You can just stare at him, ignore him, or you can wave. Now, I'm not telling you to go above and beyond and say, hello, my name is such and I live in such and such apartment, and you can come to my house and these are the... I'm not saying going to that extent. But what I am saying, it is imperative for you to know your neighbors. And from the bigger scheme of things, if you look at society and the evolution of society, one of the biggest factors that distorts are not just community, because what happens on a community level also impacts us nationally. What happens nationally impacts us globally. So how can we foster it from a small perspective? Start by saying hi to your neighbor. Get to know your neighbor. And when you get to know your neighbor, you get to know something about yourself. You get to know something about someone that you're living with. Because, keep this in mind, you are also living with your neighbors. I'm not going to get spiritual with you guys. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a minister. But there is a book that speaks about a commandment. One of the greatest commandments is to love thy neighbor. Well, how can I love you if I don't know you? Unless I'm loving a stranger. That gets a little uncomfortable. So the way that we can love our neighbor is to get to know our neighbors from a fundamental perspective. And it's just saying hi. There's another show, there's a show that I loved to watch when I was a kid. You guys may or may not be familiar with it. It's called Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers was an amazing guy, psychologist, and he used to say this song. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? And we used to sit down. All right, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have smart television, you know, that big giant box. And we used to watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And everybody imagined that we lived in a neighborhood that was emblematic of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood because Mr. Rogers was happy. And everyone in his neighborhood were happy. They had trains going choo-choo. This is the neighborhood you wanted to live in. This is the neighborhood that we all imagined to be in. We're going to buy our house. And the most important thing that the realtor forgot to implement, not just the roof and garage doors and the parking, they didn't implement, well, what about the neighbors? Because it's going to impact us one way or another. Financially, it's going to impact us, let's be honest. If I have neighbors who are making noise at 3 a.m. and I got to wake up at 5 in the morning, well, we're going to have an issue. Or I have a neighbor who wants to be a mechanic and put all these car parts right in front of his yard. Well, he's destroying my property value. So it's going to hurt me financially. I want to end with this. One of my favorite shows, The Twilight Zone. It's an episode called the Monster. It's called the Monster. It was an episode of The Twilight Zone about aliens that invaded. And the aliens were able to bank on the fact that we as people were paranoid about each other. And the end, the quote, which is one of my favorite quotes, says, in order for civilization to remain, humans must be civilized. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.